What would you do if your mother was a black magic witch? After her death, your family is in great danger, and terrifying things happen during the journey. Hey guys, this is Afraid, and you are watching Hereditary. Let's get into it. It all begins with the funeral of Ellen Taper Leigh, who passed away at age 78. Her son-in-law, Stephen Graham, wakes up his children to attend the funeral, Peter Graham and Charlie Graham. Stephen finds Charlie asleep in the treehouse. He is annoyed because it has been cold at night and Charlie might get sick. Charlie, on the other hand, seems scared of something, but says everything is fine. During the funeral of matriarch Ellen Graham, her daughter Annie, in front of people many of whom are unknown to her, delivers a eulogy in which she describes their complicated relationship. Meanwhile, her 13-year-old daughter, Charlie, draws disturbing pictures on her scrapbook while sitting next to her father and continually makes a strange noise with her tongue. As Charlie stared at her grandmother's dead body, she ate chocolate. She was allergic to nuts. In fact, Stephen checked to see if everything was okay. Before going to sleep, Annie talked to Charlie and told her about her mother Ellen. When Charlie was born, Ellen would not leave her for a moment and always took care of her. But Charlie reveals that Ellen, her grandmother, wanted her to be a boy, and she seems increasingly agitated and scared. The little girl begins to wonder who will take care of her when Annie will die, and becomes more and more worried, avoiding eye contact with her mother. Annie notices the writing, satiny, on the wall of Charlie's room and becomes intrigued. Satiny is a word associated with bringing the dead back to life. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Annie, in the workshop where she builds models, opens the boxes with her mother's belongings and finds a book with a mysterious note addressed to her, written by Ellen herself. Ellen is talking about some kind of sacrifice that will eventually explain everything. As she prepares to leave the room, the silhouette of Ellen appears in the darkness. Very disturbing scene, but the shape vanished as soon as Annie turned on the light. Annie's mom, Ellen, even insisted on feeding baby Charlie, and one of the miniatures depicts Grandma offering the infant her exposed breast. The next day, while Charlie was in class, a pigeon slammed lethally into the window, but the little girl didn't seem surprised. During the break, Charlie goes outside and cuts the pigeon's head off. Meanwhile, across the street, a woman was waving to Charlie. At home, as Annie walks around the house, she notices the door to her mother's room open. Someone had broken in, so Annie locks it. In the meantime, her husband Steve receives a phone call from the cemetery, informing him of the desecration of Ellen's grave. What kind of lunatic could have pulled a person's dead body out from under the ground? Stephen doesn't reveal the truth to Annie to just keep her calm. Unbeknownst to her husband, Annie begins attending a listening group, and at the first meeting, reveals that her family had suffered from a variety of mental illnesses that had caused their deaths, including that of her mother. Annie tells of her brother hanging himself at the age of 16, leaving behind a note that said his mother had tried to put people in him. Charlie has a very close relationship with Ellen, so much so that as she leaves the house barefoot, she sees her grandmother in the trees surrounded by a ring of fire as if she were participating in a ritual. Annie finds her and forces her back into the house. Annie's 16-year-old son, Peter, asks Annie if he can use her car to go to a party. His mother agrees on the condition that he takes his sister with him. At the party, Peter, as a responsible brother, leaves his sister alone in the middle of the 16-year-old pimples and goes to smoke pot with friends. Charlie inadvertently eats a slice of cake containing nuts, to which he is allergic. Charlie begins to feel sick and is barely breathing. Peter sees that his sister cannot breathe and immediately puts her in the car to take her to the hospital. But she, in full anaphylactic shock, leans out the window to try to breathe better. In the meantime, Peter, trying to avoid a dead animal on the road, swerves abruptly, and Charlie is decapitated by a pole. Peter stops the car and doesn't have the courage to look back. In fact, he drives home in fear and goes to bed still in a state of shock. Charlie's body will not be discovered by Annie until the following morning when she gets into her car. Annie's screams of despair are beyond description. It becomes even more disturbing when she keeps repeating that she wants to die. Peter falls into a depression. In fact, he doesn't sleep at night, and during classes, he keeps having visions of his sister dead in the car. He tries smoking pot to calm himself down, but he feels sick and can't breathe. Annie, more and more upset by her new loss, thinks of joining the listening group. But once she arrives at the headquarters, she decides to go home without even getting out of the car. Just then, Joan, a woman who lost her son and grandson, who drowned, approaches her. Annie accepts her help, and the next day she goes to visit her at home. where with amazement, she discovers on the doorstep a mat just like the ones her mother used to make for family members. At night, Annie no longer sleeps with Steven, but instead takes up sleeping in the treehouse where Charlie used to go at night. That same night, Peter can't sleep and hears the tongue rumblings that Charlie used to make. The next day, Annie met Joan and told her about the turbulent relationship she had with her family and about a particular episode that occurred years before. One night, while sleepwalking, she doused her children and herself with turpentine while holding matches in her other hand. When she woke up, she immediately threw the matches away, but her children did not believe that she was sleepwalking, and above all, Peter, from that moment on, had always accused her of having wanted to kill them, something that had definitely damaged their relationship. Annie also reveals that when she was pregnant with Peter, she did not want to have any contact with her mother, while when her daughter was born, Ellen had forced her to let her raise Charlie. One night, Steven walks into Annie's workshop to call her to eat, and notices that his wife has recreated Charlie's death scene and is disgusted by what he sees. Annie's relationship with her son is very difficult. In fact, at the table between the two begins an argument in which Annie said many things to Peter's face. A few days later, Joan meets Annie by chance at the supermarket and tells her that she has met a medium who has conjured up her grandson. She convinces Annie to attend a seance at her house, during which Joan's grandson's spirit manifests itself by writing on a blackboard, "I love you, Grandma." Annie is scared, and before she leaves, Joan gives her the necessary material to perform the ritual in case she wants to get in touch with Charlie: a candle and a formula that she must pronounce at the beginning of the seance. During the same night, Annie has a nightmare in which a swarm of ants covers the face of her son Peter, after which apparently the son wakes up normally. Peter tells her that she is sleepwalking again, but Annie is acting strange. She asked if Charlie was there. After that, she accidentally told Peter that she didn't want to be his mother. Peter, in desperation, starts crying and asking why she didn't want him. Annie said she just wanted to save him. After that, a flame was lit and Annie woke up. After the nightmare, Annie decides to have a seance with the rest of the family. Steven does not believe this, but decides to please his wife, who has gone out of her mind. Annie starts the seance and asks Charlie to move the glass, after which, of course, that the glass moves. During the session, Peter has a panic attack, and paranormal things start happening around them. Annie seems possessed by Charlie's spirit and begins to emit strange demonic noises. Charlie's spirit in Annie's body seems very frightened and confused. Her husband, thinking she is suffering from hysterics, throws water in her face, waking her up. In the following scenes, another inscription appears on the walls: Liftoak Pandemonium. That means, open up chaos or hell. The next day at school, Peter sees the same circle of light that Charlie saw. The moment he looked in the mirror, his reflection gave him an evil smile. After that, Peter instantly got up and went to the bathroom. In the evening, as everyone went to sleep, Annie heard noises in Charlie's room. In fact, it was her spirit that was drawing Peter's frightened face in her diary. Speaking of Peter, while he was asleep, he heard Charlie's tongue out again, but this time Peter saw her in the corner. Charlie looked at him and lowered his head, dropping it in the form of a ball. Suddenly, someone behind Peter began to pull his head away. Peter managed to escape, but found his mother Annie in his room. The mother claims that she did nothing and that she heard Peter screaming. Convinced that Charlie's spirit is evil, Annie decides to burn her sketchbook, but when it falls into the fireplace fire, Annie's sleeve also catches fire, so she retrieves it from the flames and runs to Joan for advice. Once she arrives at the house, Joan seems to have disappeared, while inside the dwelling, we see a room full of lit candles, and on a table, a triangle in the middle, of which is a picture of Peter with his eyes erased. Searching through her mother's belongings again, Annie opens a book in which there is a mention of an evil demon, Paimon, who is a male entity that necessarily had to possess the body of a vulnerable man. She then finds a photo album in which there are many pictures of Joan with Ellen. Going up to the attic, Annie also finds a headless corpse that she thinks is that of her mother, while on the wall, above the body, a symbol is depicted in blood, the same as the pendant Ellen was wearing in the coffin. In the meantime, Peter, at school, raised his hand as if someone had grabbed him by the head and broke his nose by violently slamming his face against the desk. Then, Steven takes his son home, and while stopped at the stoplight and being broken down, he starts crying. Annie immediately informs Steve about the body in the attic, Joan's photos with her mother, and Charlie's sketchbook, but he doesn't believe her, and when he sees the decomposed body in the attic, he suspects that she is the one who desecrated Ellen's grave. Annie begs Steve to throw the album into the fire so that she can sacrifice herself to stop the demonic events, but Steve refuses. Annie plucks up the courage to throw the album into the fire, but it is Steve who is burned to death. It's night. The house is completely surrounded by unknown naked people. In the meantime, Peter wakes up, and above him, in a corner, was his mother Annie, possessed by Charlie's spirit. As soon as he turned his head, the spirit left the room. I have to be honest, I was scared as hell when I first saw this. He came downstairs and found his father's corpse in front of the fireplace. Looking to his left, behind him was a naked man smiling at him. On the ceiling, there was Annie staring at him. Soon after, he is chased by his possessed mother, so he takes refuge in the attic, where he discovers his photo with his eyes erased, surrounded by candles and cult objects. In the attic, Annie levitates and decapitates herself with a piano wire, while naked people stand by smiling at Peter. Frightened, Peter jumps out of the window, and when he wakes up, he is possessed by light and follows his mother's floating corpse into the treehouse that belonged to his sister, beginning to make the same strange sound with his tongue that Charlie used to make. In the treehouse is Charlie's decapitated head, adorned with some sort of halo. Also present are Joan, other Coven members, and the headless corpses of her mother and grandmother, all prostrate at Charlie's feet. Joan gets up and approaches Peter, greeting him as both Charlie and Paimon, stating that he has been freed from his female host and is now free to rule them. It is then revealed that Grandma's plan was nothing more than to give a male body to the demon, previously incarnated in her sister. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then find out how Einstein's reincarnation created the time machine in 2015 and why we should never use it.